So welcome to the 47th Seattle International Film Festival. I'm Hebe Tabachnik, Senior Programmer of the festival, and we are live with the director of this fantastic film from Brazil, Iuli. Welcome, Iuli, to the festival, and welcome all of the people who are listening to us right now. Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and for selecting the film.
Thank you for making it. Where are you, connecting from right now?
I'm in Porto Alegre, in the south of Brazil. It's the city where we shot the film.
Oh, cool. So before we jump into, the whole conversation, I'd like to acknowledge, SIFF acknowledges that we occupy indigenous land, the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people. Let's go into, your journey to make this film and then into the film. When did you decide it was going to be, a film, becoming a filmmaker? What was your journey in terms of, discovering film as a medium for your expression?
So both my parents also work with cinema. My mother is a producer, my father is a director and writer, and he also teaches cinema in the university. But since I was a child, I really liked writing, always have. But then when I was 17 and I had to decide what course to take, I was like, I think I'm doing literature, but also cinema. So I entered on 2 different courses. And when I told my parents I would like to study cinema, they were like, oh my God, like they were a little bit scared because they knew how hard it is. And it's hard here in Brazil. It's hard everywhere, but you have to love it to work with it. But yes, and then when I entered film school, I didn't know that I wanted to be a director, but then what I liked about directing was the possibility of interfering in all the different arts that cinema holds in it. So writing, but photography and costumes and lighting and everything, and the soundtrack. So I really like to put everything together. So that's why I decided to direct. And I'm also a little bit of a control freak, so directing is good for me. But yes, then after college, I did many short films, and I worked a lot as assistant director in the industry here. And that was good to have experience working as assistant director for directors with different styles. And then some years later, I felt that I needed to, not needed, but I wanted to study more. Then I entered the master's in creative writing. And that's where I started writing The Pink Cloud, because in the master's, we had to do text that was like a big thesis, but also the creative final work. And the creative final work was doing a screenplay for a feature. And for the thesis, I was studying these narratives that had characters in confinement against their will. So that was also an inspiration. So I was studying like The Exterminating Angel from Buñuel, We Close No Exit by Sartre, the book by Agatha Christie, and then there were none, that they are all stuck in an island. So I was trying to find the similarities and try to see what I liked about the story, about all those narratives. And I was beginning to write The Pink Cloud. So I wrote the film between 2016 and 2017. During the masters, the first drafts, and they were very, very long. The first draft was like 160 pages long, and then I was cutting and cutting.
It was a telenovela. It was a soap opera.
It was an epic, yeah, like 3 films. So yes, then we were waiting to get finance, and then we got a public funding to shoot the film, and we shot in 2019. before everything happened. And when we were editing the film in 2020, we started hearing a lot about this pandemic, and it was so weird for us because it was like, oh, our film was supposed to be a sci-fi, but it's becoming reality.
So, well, you gave, already as this idea of the origin, and did you always thought, thinking about the confinement, that it was going to be a pandemic, or did you entertain at some point, other ideas, and how that idea sort of got to be this pink cloud, and why pink? I mean, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I knew from the beginning that I wanted to explore this relationship of a couple that had just met, and their idea was to just spend the night together and nothing more, maybe. And then suddenly they were confined and they couldn't leave, and they spent many years together without leaving the house and without seeing in person anyone else. So it's like this idea of forced marriage that I wanted to work with. And when I was thinking about the possibilities that make them stuck, I was like, maybe there is a civil war, maybe there is, I don't know, something, but I didn't want to be too realistic. And when I thought about the concept of this pink cloud that kills you in 10 seconds, and it's very mysterious and poetic and doesn't make a lot of sense, I really liked it. Because I wanted to explore their emotional journey and not they trying to survive this war or something. No, I didn't want to focus on the physical aspect of it, on the practical aspect, and even not in the scientific aspect. I was like, there is this cloud, you have to believe it's there. You see in the beginning of the film that it kills in 10 seconds. And it looks beautiful, like it doesn't look that it's harmful, it doesn't look dangerous, but it is. And with the passage of time, it really tortures mainly the character of Giovanna, the female character. And that's also why the color of the cloud is pink. It's because it's like this color that is set aside for women, like since we are little girls and like we have to wear pink. And the idea was making this feminine fantasy that it's seductive and it's there, but you see that Giovanna makes choices, like follow some steps that she didn't want. Like she does so many things in the film that she didn't want to do in the beginning, and her freedom is being cut each day less, each year each year more and more. And so it's like the pink cloud is ironically putting her in this box, like you'll be this type of woman, you will do this, and this is what I expect from you, and you will not get away. You will just follow what I want.
While you were talking and describing the relationship they have to have, it's so eerie because we experience pretty much every aspect, maybe not so much the years yet, but having a doctor virtually, giving consultation and taking care of people long distance, and in a way that the question is, how did you work trying to think all those things that were going to happen, but they hadn't happened at the time when you wrote the script, because that's the special thing about this film is a memory of the future, because you were writing and even the incorporation of the virtual reality and what the protagonist, she uses that as a way of escapism, but you can see that that's kind of starting to be the case. So tell us a little bit about how you were slowly developing all these ideas when those ideas didn't exist yet.
Yeah, so when the pandemic started, everyone from the crew and the actors, everything that happened in the film and that it happened in real life, they all sent me the news like, did you see this? Did you see this couple that is stuck together? Did you see this woman playing through the window with her neighbor? And I was like, oh, cool. Like I hated it because I was like, every scene that was supposed to be original, it was just become reality. And like, oh, great! I just did a realistic film. Like nobody will think I'm creative anymore. But of course, at the same time, it's funny and it's bizarre that so many things actually happens. Like when I did like my godson, we did a birthday party for him via Zoom, like remotely online. So yes, it was just like the scene. What else? I did many doctor consultations virtually, and I was like, okay, this is my first doctor of the pink clouds. So many things. I was like, it was like checking the list, you know, okay, I did this and this and this. So it was a very weird coincidence. And the good thing is that we could have cut something because it's having our own confinement and dealing with our own pandemic. We felt that no, this emotionally is too far away from what we are experiencing. But there was no scene that and many journalists ask me, oh, what would you change now that you have lived? And I say, I wouldn't. I could have changed because the final cut we did during the pandemic, and I think we can resonate with the characters and their feelings, and that's great. Like it's good that I could maybe have the sensibility to see, oh, they would feel like that. They would feel like that because now we felt like so many different emotions throughout this year here in Brazil. So many of them, like it was not easy. It's still not easy. But yes, I think, well, it's terrible that we are in a pandemic, but it happened and the film happened. So I'm glad some people are able to maybe process some things throughout the film and to relate to the characters.
And indeed, I have to tell you, I mean, like the moment I saw the film, and I'm sure the audience will feel the same, it really helps in a way process, and at the same time we are enough feel lucky that you know, I put it in my when I was recommending this film, you know, we're lucky that it's just a, you know, like what we're living is just a virus and it's not a cloud, and we still have some freedom, and you know, and in the midst of all what's going on. Tell us about shooting a film that is, you know, like you said, it's about a couple that just met and, you know, has to spend this confinement together and, you know, live their lives. How was the, you know, shooting of that and rehearsing? And, you know, again, because this film was not shot during the pandemic, and, you know, at the time, you know, I'm sure you were able to go anywhere you wanted, but how did you, you know, work with the actors to feel, you know, what we now feel, you know, like regularly, but for them as actors, and to create that feeling of asphyxia and boredom and, you know, isolation, etc.
Yes, the casting was so important because the film depends a lot on the two main characters. And I knew them both already. I did some shorts with them and I worked with them in other projects, sometimes as assistant director, and they knew each other. They were friends. They have done plays together, theater plays. So it was very good for us that, because we had intimacy. We all live in the same city, so we could meet when we wanted. And we had this intimacy to discuss the scripts, to discuss their characters, and to say everything that we wanted to say. And we rehearsed a lot. I like rehearsing. It was my first feature, so I wanted to go to the set feeling confident in every scene. So we rehearsed almost every scene, and it was important to us to discuss a lot the passage of time and the different ways that they see the cloud, because they react to the cloud really differently, and that's what makes creates conflict and makes them to follow different paths emotionally. And we rehearsed a lot, and one thing that it was great for us is that we shot, and I asked that for my AD so many times, and she could do it, and it was great that we shot almost chronologically, not every scene of course, but like now we're going to shoot every scene of the first weeks that they are confined, now 1 month of confinement, now 3 years, and now 5 years. So we could feel that passage of time, because we shot during 4 weeks. The first week was just all the supporting characters. So Iago's father, her sister, her friend, everything that is on the TV, the news. So we shot that in 1 week, and the other 2 weeks we were in a little bit in our own confinement. We were in that apartment. The shooting, it was a real apartment. It was not a studio. And we were together, and we were there like 12 hours a day, and so we could feel the confinement and the passage of time. So that was great to shoot almost chronologically, and they were like, shooting always makes you tired. So in the last week when Giovanna needed to be like very tired and depressed, she was like, "Oh, Iuli, I think I'm a little bit sick. I'm so tired." I'm like, great, that's
a feeling.
But it was a little bit psychological, because in the wrapping party she was already great and like drinking and dancing.
And you said that you finished your shooting in 2019, but the editing in 2020. Did you have to, of course, deal with finalizing the editing, long distance? How was the post-production of the film? During the pandemic?
The editing was almost all in person, thank God, because here in Brazil we were not the first countries to have COVID. So we were like we had all these news around the world, but we didn't have COVID cases here yet. So we could like get to know about the situation, but still meet in person. But with the post-production, yes, that was a lot done remotely, like the color correction, the dubbing, the soundtrack was all remotely, and it felt so sad. But I love the soundtrack and I love the result, but it's good to be in person. Oh, let's test this keyboard, let's test these notes, and it was all like more bureaucratical, like more people sending me stuff, and then I give feedback by email, and then they send me back, and then we do a Zoom, and so it's for sure not the same. But I'm glad the editing was all in person, and the editor Vicente is great, and the whole crew was great, and I think they were so good in adapting, because it was not easy like to dub the dialogue that we needed to dub remotely. Like I was in my house, the Renata, the actress, was in her house, and the sound editor was at his house. So it was like and we were by Zoom, and she recorded the lines, and he received, and I could hear them and give my feedback on the same instant.
Would you send the actors the equipment to record their voices and then connect to the internet? So basically a virtual set.
Yes, they received the microphone sanitized, and it was crazy, but it worked. I was afraid it was not going to work, but it worked.
Talking about that, of course, because you're Brazilian and it takes place in Brazil, but have you ever thought about the fact that, okay, this is happening just in Brazil, and this is, this is a situation that only Brazilian, or not even Brazilians, that it's the cloud on top of this particular city, and two questions: whether you thought about that when you were writing, and what were your thoughts when, again, when all this pandemic was starting to happen and the feeling of, well, it's not in Brazil, but eventually this cloud starting to come to Brazil?
That was exactly what happened in the beginning. In the beginning, the cloud was in the whole world. And then I changed the script and the cloud was just in Brazil. And when we shot, the cloud was just in Brazil. But then the pandemic started. And when the pandemic started, the sales agent, the distributor were like, well, everyone is in confinement. I think everyone will relate to the film. So let's put that the cloud is in the whole world. And we just needed a small change for that. In the beginning, we have the news in the TV, and the journalist said, oh, there is a pink cloud in many parts of Brazil. And then she said, in many countries of the world. And then we added the cloud in London, like we bought an image from London and put the cloud. And that was it. Like, it was very simple to change, because the film is also about isolation and alienation. And so they are in this bubble. We see them in this apartment, and Iago's bubble is even smaller because he doesn't want to know about what's going on outside. Mainly bad news. He doesn't want to hear about any bad news. So we could say, yeah, and the film could be set in another country. Like, we could make the same film, but they were in Japan, or I don't know, in many other countries, and it would work, I think.
And one of the things that you said, you know, and definitely it is an amazing study of, you know, the development and transformation and mutations within a couple. And in that respect, you know, it's you know, testament to your writing and the, you know, performances and, you know, everything that makes this feeling of, you know, yes, of course is the, you know, the cloud, it's out there, but it's so, there is something so, you know, real in terms of how this, you know, couple evolves, and they change their mind, and, you know, they're happy, they're, you know, they stop being happy, they want to be separated, they, you know, this, but you're very young, you know, and so how were you able to infuse all this, you know, again, maturity in seeing the transformation of a couple that has been together for, you know, for so many years? Did you draw from, you know, your experience from, you know, friends and family? Because you know, at the very end, it's a really such a keen study of, you know, the transformation of a couple and you know, the relationship in a small family.
Oh, thank you very much for saying that. Yes, I always like to explore human relationships and the challenges of it. And I was never married, and my longest boyfriend lasted like 3 years. So yes, I maybe it's my fear of being stuck 10 years together.
Therapeutic. It was therapy for you to write this.
Yes, I had to address those issues. Yes, but it always, like, since I was a kid or a teenager, like, if I was watching action films, I was so glad when there was one scene that they were sit together in a table talking, and I was like, yes, that's the kind of scene, the kind of conflict that I like. And yes, I think I was never married and never stayed so long, but we can analyze, like, from our friends, our family, and through the fiction as well, like books and movies, and seeing that many things repeat themselves, you know, when they get bored one of another, and they try a lot. And when the actor was when we were rehearsing on set the scene when they are in the table, and then after in the party, and she says, you tried and I tried, but we can't, it's not working anymore. She's like, Iuli, it's like you were there when I was divorcing my ex-wife. Like it's almost the things that we said. And so yes, I'm glad that he could connect with that, and he felt it was very real for him.
I'm going to remind the audience that you can pose questions in the Q&A section or in the chat portion of the Zoom. So just making sure that if you have any questions for Iuli, because I have, I can talk about this film for hours and hours, and I'm so fascinated by the the cleverness and this possibility of seeing. And going back a little bit about the virtual reality, because I myself felt, when I was able to see VR shorts and stories, I always thought, this could totally be a drug for me. I mean, I could totally live in VR forever. But that was, again, way before the pandemic. So, can you tell us a little bit about your, relation with VR and how you, got to that sort of idea of being VR, the way of escaping reality?
Yes, I never had VR glasses before, but I had experience then on festivals, on film festivals or film markets, that we could see documentaries and short films and animations using VR, and it's so amazing. Like I saw one documentary about hunting elephants in Nigeria, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and it was so good, because on the documentary you really felt that you were there with them, like trying to protect the elephants, and it gave another meaning to the documentary. I think it was more emotional and therefore more impactful, and it was so good. And I was like, well, Giovanna, she tries to escape the situation in many ways, and one way, a good way to escape the situation, to escape the apartment, would be in VR. I think if as you said, we are in the pandemic, but we can go to the corner, we can walk in the park. If I couldn't, I think I would be very addicted in VR glasses, because I was like, no, just put me on a beach, just put me somewhere. And when she puts sand on the floor, she's like really trying to get out of there. Like she's seeing the beach and then touching the wet sand. And for her, it's what she can do. It's depressing, but at least she's trying. And one of the things, like the crew was saying, aren't you going to show what Giovanna is seeing? But I didn't want to show what Giovanna was seeing, because I wanted the viewers to be in the confinement with them, to feel that they were stuck in the situation. So I didn't want them to have the relief of suddenly being in a beach watching the ocean. I was like, no, she's in the beach, but you are in the apartment, and you stay in the apartment until the end of the movie.
And I think it was, a great decision, because it is definitely more, still, more eerie because of, that relationship between, she's just touching this sun, which is real, but it seems fake, because, we know that she's probably experiencing. So it's, that combination. What is next in terms of the film? And, in terms of what, you're planning for your next move? I was jokingly saying, hey, maybe we need, the pink cloud comes back, number 2, the bigger pink cloud or something.
I think people will hate me, because they already saying that it's my fault that we are in quarantine, that I saw the future. So my friends were saying, for your next script, just write it. Everyone is in peace, everyone is happy, and that's not a bad thing in the world. but there will be no conflict in this film. But if I can do that for you, I will. So yes, the Pink Cloud now is circulating the festivals. We are in Seattle, in Chicago. We did Miami. I don't remember all of them because in the US it was many and still more to come. We were in Bulgaria. We'll be in Belgium next week. And we have been released commercially in Russia, and it was so amazing to do a Q&A with a Russian audience, and they were in the movie theater because they are open, the movie theaters, and people can go. So it was good, and it's like, and hearing the Russian language that is so different from Portuguese, and seeing them connecting to the film was really great. So, and the idea is to release the film in the US commercially also, but I think it will be on the fall. We don't have the dates yet. And if you want to know more news about the film, you can follow the Instagram, that is the Pink Cloud Movie. Then we put all the festivals and all the places where you can watch it. And for my next film, for the moment, I want to continue with, it will not be the Pink Cloud 2, but I want to continue doing this type of sci-fi that it's intimate and focused on characters. And my editor said, joking, that it was existentialist sci-fi at the time. So like in the Pink Cloud, it's focused on the emotional journeys of the characters, but there is a sci-fi element that shakes their lives.
I like that. We have a question from someone from the audience who would like to know if Ajo's father really killed his nurse.
I think he wouldn't be able to. I think that since he found the nurse in the kitchen on the floor, maybe the nurse killed himself, like with the gas from the oven. It's one possibility. But yes, I wouldn't say he killed. I think, yes, he really died, either naturally, but I think probably he killed himself in the kitchen.
And following a little bit that sort of idea, did you have to kind of play with how much was going to become, like completely crazy and get into like a sci-fi where, they were ended up, I don't know, eating each other, killing each other, gory. I mean, how did you sort of establish, I don't know, I would say, the limits of how far you wanted to go into this study and of a couple in isolation?
So yes, I think one of the craziest things that happens when the sister of Giovanna, she says two of her friends are pregnant by this man that was with them for a long time. But when she delivers the news, she's very like cynical and she doesn't care. It's like she lost all hope. She's like, we'll just be here for a long time. Doesn't matter if they're pregnant now or 10 years from now. Let's just live the way we can. So, but yes, concerning how crazy they would get, I think since, as I said, we shot almost chronologically. And when I told them, okay, now it's the first scene that it has been 5 years with the cloud. Renata, the actress, she got very agitated. It was like she has really been 5 years there. She was like, oh, but I would be agitated. And the way she did the scene, she was like so different. I was like, no, like calm down. Like I know it's a lot, but we are here. Giovanna is still trying to be sane and not to freak out a lot. So I think that was the only moment when she wanted to do more than what I expected. And at the same time, like we see that maybe we are more well-behaved than we thought. Like we have been in a year in this, and of course it's not easy mentally, but I think our power of adapting to difficult situations is very strong. Of course, like Giovanna and Iago were in a comfortable apartment. It depends really on your situation, how much comfort you have, and if you have families and friends around to support you. But yes, I was like, I didn't want to get too crazy in terms of what they would do. I was always like, we have this sci-fi premise, we have this weird premise, but the way that they react is human and just as realistic as we can.
And of course you have that, you know, things being delivered through that hole in the window, which makes, you know, at least the life, you know.
Yes, of course.
You can go on. I mean, it will be a different, completely, you know, maybe the sequel is, you know, the system doesn't work anymore and they cannot get everything they want.
That would be a film about cannibalism, yeah.
Yes. We got a question from another member of the audience. Matt says, who was still producing the food and other supplies that were delivered in the tubes? See, we're, you know, getting to that part.
Yeah, so I always, like I said, I don't know if you have watched The Exterminating Angel by Buñuel. They are always stuck in this house and suddenly they can't leave the house, and we don't understand why, and they don't even try. They just say that they can't leave the house, and then suddenly in the end of the film they can, because they do some things, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. And my idea was always like, when I chose to put the pink cloud, I knew that I didn't want to explain too much, because it didn't matter to me. I think it wasn't the focus, and I felt that the more that I explained, the more people would be questioning more things, other like problems in the film. So in the beginning you see that the cloud kills in 10 seconds, and Giovanna looks at it and say, oh, why doesn't it enter through the cracks of the window, even the small cracks? And it doesn't. And one thing that I knew that I had to explain was how they got food. So I put that weird tube in the window, and that is it's not easy to believe that, because we were joking like our government would never be so quick and so
and you can imagine, you know, I kept thinking the amount of tubes, you know, for the high rises and like everywhere, you know, you will have to have a tube, you know, in each window. I mean, like logistically, it was just
it doesn't make any sense, and we knew that. But I'm like, I just want to explain that there is food for them. They can order online and they get food. But yes, our government wouldn't be so smart and quick for sure.
But,
and then, of course, there are these questions like, who is producing food? They're getting fruits, like how can people, you know, cultivate foods and to make their foods? So yes, I'm sorry, I don't have that question for you, because really I understand that it doesn't make a lot of sense, and I was just wishing that people would focus on the relationship and to forget the reality of the practical side of the situation. So we don't know.
And I think it's definitely better not to, you know, answer everything. It's, you know, it's a willing suspension of disbelief, and you know, things happen, and in a way, I mean, of course it's a different thing, but we do have home delivery, you know, you know, even in the worst moments of the pandemic, you know, we were still getting our food and you know, so somehow, you know,
yes,
definitely it didn't get into, you know, like you said, cannibalist, you know, existential drama, which might be one of the films that you shoot in the future. Okay, so I think there are no more questions from the audience. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I can keep asking you questions, but I was gonna say, did you go to Russia or?
Okay. I'm just like, I love to travel and I love going to festivals, and for the moment I've done all remotely. sadly, because, well, I can't enter the countries and it's not safe yet. So let's see if for the second semester I can. I hope I can.
Did you have a Q&A with the Russian audience?
Yes, it was great. They had a translator, and so they were talking in Russian. I could only understand Giovanna Iago, Giovanna Iago. That's it. And like feminist king, I don't know, something that was feminist.
Do you remember a couple of, the most interesting questions that they ask you? I was just, I thought it was interesting, because of how Russia is in general, and this film that,
The debate was very good. They really liked the film. And the questions, I think some of them I answered here. Like I remember they asked about the color of the cloud. Why was it pink? But I remember one, it was not a question, but kind of a question, but more a comment that a woman said, don't you think Giovanna is acting too much like a child? Like she doesn't act like an adult, like a grown-up. She just very girly and childish. I'm like, oh my god, poor Giovanna. And I was like, I was defending my character, saying, no, I think like she really tries, but there is a point that she sees that she doesn't connect with neither of them, neither of the men, none of the men of the house. And well, she gives up, but she tried a lot, and well, and she supported all of them, like she was supporting Iago, her son, Iago's father's nurse. So yes, I don't think she acted like a child, but it was very funny to hear that question, like very that very tough question.
They're still demanding people to behave somehow. Well, we are running out of time. I'm just double checking that we don't have any questions left. Iuli, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
It was great. Thank you, Hebe.
I cannot wait. We cannot wait to see what's coming, next for you. I want to remind the audience and everybody who saw the film at the festival, please remember to vote. We really want to hear what you think about it. And again, Iuli, thank you so much. You're brilliant, and I know we're going to see a lot of amazing films. Hopefully not so prescient as this one, maybe. If you have any idea that you want to share, to many other people, just to get prepared and start, making...
I think you will be free in the next movie, I promise.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this the Q&A of the Pink Cloud. And please keep on watching. See you at the movies. Thank you.
Thank you.